Thank you for joining me today as we move with gratitude. This is a mobility flow where we'll work through each part of our body, bringing mobility and awareness to all our different parts. As you move, maybe you could consider thinking about what each part does for you and just giving thanks for the things that your body can do, even if it may have more limitations than you want or not always perform the way you wish it did. We can notice what is done for us. So also, as you notice maybe limitations or parts that you wish moved better, you can choose to work on it, but with love and with grace for yourself. So bring your awareness to your breath, noticing your inhale and exhale. You can close your eyes if you'd like, or maybe just focus on one point in front of you. And let your breath slow and notice how your body feels today. Let the future plans of the day and thoughts jumping around in your mind just be. And know that you can be fully present here and now without having to care for those things. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. If you're able today, take a deep inhale through your nose and then exhale all of your breath out through your mouth. Let's take another breath together. Inhale and exhale all the way out. You can open your eyes if they were closed. And we'll begin on all fours, on your hands and your knees in tabletop position. And we're going to go ahead and start with some wrist stretches. So you're going to point your fingers back towards your knees, coming into a gentle stretch for your wrists and your forearms. If this feels tight and difficult right away, the further you lean forward, the easier it's going to get. The more that you lean back, the deeper stretch that you will get. So do what feels good in your body today. Don't push yourself too hard, or it's going to hurt too much tomorrow. Just breathe gently with me here. You want to try and keep all your fingers on the ground, including your thumbs. The palms are on the ground. And press into the mat with your hands so that you're not just slumping into your shoulders as you're doing the stretch. That's going to be hard on your shoulder joint. So press into the mat to bring stability to the shoulder complex as well. And then you're going to slowly lean back to bring your palms up off the floor. Try to keep your thumbs on the ground, and it'll bring a deeper stretch into your hands. Take a deep breath in, exhale out, and then peel up a little more so that the tips of your fingers are just on the ground, but you're still getting a stretch through your arms, your forearms, your hands, and even your fingers. Take a couple of breaths here. Our hands and our wrists are working for us all the time, but most of us don't give very much attention to stretching or strengthening them on our own. Stretch like this can feel so good. Peel all the way back up slowly, spreading your hands out wide, and then making a fist. Squeezing tight, opening up wide, squeezing tight, open up wide, and then go ahead and roll those wrists out. Mine crack a lot. Yours may or may not. That's okay. And then we're going to come back down onto all fours and go into a forearm stretch. So you're going to lay your forearm down with your palms facing up towards the ceiling this time. As you do this, you want to press your entire forearm into the mat. Try to get the back of your wrists to the ground and keep all 5 fingers of each hand on the ground, pressing with each of those parts into the mat to again stabilize the shoulders and give a deep stretch in the forearms and the wrists. You may feel this in your hands, the back of the hands. Concentrate to keep them glued to the mat. Breathing in and out. Take a couple more breaths here, and then we'll go ahead and peel back up, roll those wrists out again. And then we'll go into that wrist stretch once more with your fingers pointing towards your knees. Getting into a position where your hands are fully glued to the ground and you're pressing into the mat, but not forcing yourself into too deep of a stretch for you. Inhale through the nose if you're able. If you have a stuffy nose today, you can breathe just as well through your mouth. I have a mindfulness teacher that says there's only one right way to breathe, in and out. And we find that to be true, don't we? You can begin to peel the palms of your hands up, keeping your fingers on the ground. Getting a nice stretch right in the hand. And then slowly peeling the fingers up, giving them a nice stretch too. And then coming back to that tight fist, opening wide, gripping tightly, opening wide. Grip one more time tightly and open wide. Bring your hands to the mat in front of you and lean back onto your toes to press into downward dog. Since this is our first downward dog, notice how your body feels. Are your calves tight today? Maybe put a nice bend in each knee, walking them out. Really press into the mat with your hands again to stabilize those shoulders. Inhale and exhale to come forward into plank, and then place your knees back down. We're going to move into an articulated cat-cow, bringing mobility into each area of the spine. So to do this, you're going to tuck your tailbone like you're pointing it down towards the floor and rounding the lower part of the back, and then mentally walking up your spine so that you round out into the mid-back. Press your hands into the mat to round into the upper back, and then eventually the neck where your cervical spine is. Notice if there's any dead zones where you can't quite feel your spine from within. And as we flow, try to bring awareness to those parts. So now tilt your tailbone up towards the ceiling, bringing an arch in the lower back, and then walking up your spine into the mid, back, upper back, pressing your hands into the mat, and feeling as if your sternum is trying to point forward. I wouldn't recommend pulling your neck too far back, but just gazing softly ahead. Inhale into the rib cage, trying to fill it 360 degrees. And then exhaling all the way out as you point your tailbone back down towards the floor to round out the lower back, the mid back, and the upper back. Remember to press those hands into the mat. And then point the tailbone back up, bringing an arch in the lower back, mid back, upper back. Feel between those shoulder blades, trying to bring the sternum forward. Inhale to fill the rib cage. See if you can feel your breath all the way into the back where your spine is. And then exhale all the way out to round out one more time. And then point your tailbone up, arching the spine. Inhale and exhale to neutral. Press back into an active child's pose. So you're going to rest onto your legs, but keep the tips of the fingers on the mat and reach with your arms to bring a good stretch into the upper back. Inhale and exhale. Place your hands down and lift your hips to come up into downward dog. Take a couple of deep breaths here. And then bringing the knees back down again, we'll go into what's called a rhomboid push-up. This is going to bring movement into your shoulder complex and in between your shoulder blades, often a very tight area for many of us, and it can cause neck and shoulder tension. So you're going to, without pressing your hands into the mat, just kind of slump into the position like you were just hanging out, resting. And then as you press your hands into the mat, notice how it brings your shoulder blades apart and spreads them wide. As you rest back down, squeeze the shoulder blades together like you were trying to make them touch. And then press forward. Now, with both hands on the mat, think about the front of your elbow or your elbow pit trying to point towards the front of the room. So this is internal and external rotation of the shoulder or the arm bone. I don't know if you can see it moving in and out, where you would turn your elbow to face maybe the side, or like you were going to face it towards the front of the room, and then you were going to face it forward. You might be able to see it better like this. So the way we're doing this in tabletop, you're not bending your elbows, you're just moving the humerus in the shoulder socket back and forth. Now, you want to point your elbow pits toward the front of the mat. Press your hands into the mat to spread those shoulders wide. And then squeeze the shoulder blades together without bending the elbows. So press, spread the shoulder blades wide, squeeze them together. Press the shoulder blades wide, squeeze them together, and flow like this for a little bit. It can feel very different if you haven't done this movement before, but it's a wonderful mobility movement that will feel better as you practice. Now, if you have done this before, or if you're starting to feel comfortable doing that, you could move into doing shoulder blade circles, where you're going to spread the shoulder blades wide, move them down your spine, squeeze the shoulder blades together as you move them up the spine, so that you end up in a circle. Again, your elbow pits are facing forward. And you're really not bending your elbows, but pressing into the mat. You can reverse the direction, going up and then down, and bringing space into those shoulder blades and the upper back. If it doesn't make any sense and that rolling doesn't feel good, you can just continue with squeezing the shoulder blades together, spreading them out wide. It's a great mobility exercise. So a few more with whatever you're choosing to do. And then let's press back into that active child's pose again, reaching your arms out towards the front of the mat. Inhale to fill the rib cage and then blow all the air out. Come back up and onto all fours, press back into downward dog. And then we're going to walk forward towards your hands. Keep a bend in the knees and press your feet into the mat. See if you can kind of feel that kick on your hamstrings. So like you're pressing down through your heels, roots growing on your feet, and your legs are strong, holding up your torso. Try to keep your back straight and long, not rounding like this, but keep your spine straight. If that means that you're up here, that's great too. We really want to focus on turning on the backs of the legs. And the best way to do that is by really pressing into the mat with the feet. Press your heels into the mat and bend your knees to come all the way up. And then we're going to work on spreading the toes. So maybe it's better if I turn this way. You can be either way on the mat. So bring your awareness to your feet, maybe stepping each one, noticing how the mat feels on the bottoms of your feet. Noticing if there's any pain or soft spots. And then pressing the toes into the mat, the middle of the foot, maybe lifting your arches up off the mat a little bit while keeping the rest on. And then finally pressing your heels into the mat and bringing your weight back into your heels. In this good postural position, your heels, or maybe a better way to say it is your shoulders and your hips will line up over your heels. And the head is slightly back. Now, try to lift all your toes and spread them out as wide as possible and then lay them back down. Do that again, lifting up all the toes, spreading them out as wide as possible, and then laying them back down, seeing if you can keep that spreading as you lay them down. Inhale and exhale, really pressing the toes and the heels into the mat. Now, see if you can lift your big toe on your right foot up. Set it back down and lift the big toe of your left foot up. Set it back down. And let's try that again. The big toe of your right foot and the big toe of your left foot. For some of this, it may be so easy you can't even believe you're doing it. For others, you may be staring at your toe and it's not moving. So part of this is we all have mind-body maps that allow us to move our different parts. And some parts are stronger than the other. Most of our fingers are very strong because we move them for lots of reasons. You don't always have a lot of reason to control your toes, but you can with practice, and that's going to give deeper mobility. Having strength over your feet and toes affects all your joints all the way up. So let's try again. Lift those big toes together, up off the mat, and then set them back down. Now, while keeping your big toes on the mat, lift all your other toes up off the mat, and then set them back down. Try again. Pressing your big toes into the mat, lift all the other toes up off the mat, and set them back down. Big toes off the mat, set them back down, lift all your other toes, set them back down. Big toes off the mat, set them back down, all your other toes, set them back down. Do that a couple more times at the pace that's working for you, bringing awareness and movement into your toes. And then lift up all your toes, spread them out wide again, and set them back down. Now, bringing your weight back into your heels and just regaining your balance and footing. Keep your feet facing straight forward as much as is possible for you. And then we're going to work on supination and pronation of the foot to bring some mobility into the ankles. So you supinate by placing your weight into the sides of your feet, and then pronate by bringing the weight into the inner foot, tilting the upper or the outside of your feet off the floor. Supination, pronation, tilting back and forth, giving nice mobility in the ankles. As you do this, keep your weight back into your heels. You don't want to be leaning forward. Keep your weight balanced over your heel as you lean back and forth. There's a box elder bug. I'm just going to move over here. We still have a few box elder bugs, even though there's snow outside. There were tons and tons this fall on a sunny day here in Wisconsin. So here we go, tilting a little more, bring mobility to the ankles. And then maybe just step your feet out and go ahead and do some ankle rolls, letting that movement settle back in. Okay, bringing your feet about hips width apart, and again, bring your weight back into your heels. Transfer your weight to your left foot to raise your right knee up. And we're going to do some hip cars, they're called. But this is bringing mobility into the hip joint. So you're going to bring your knee out. One of the main things here is you want to keep your hip points, those little points of your hips that kind of stick out, facing forward like they're headlights of a car, straight forward the whole time. Not popping your hips out, but also not tilting or tucking your tailbone too much. So straight forward, and as you lift, try to keep them even and balanced. And then you come out, lift your leg up a bit as you go back, and then back up. So you go out, tilting your leg up and back and forward. I'll do it from the side so you can see. Still with your right leg, you're going to lift it up, out to the side, back, trying to extend behind you and forward. Let's do 2 more of these. Out. If balance is an issue, please grab a chair or a wall so that you can focus the movement into the hip joint. The wobbling doesn't get in the way. So now we're going to reverse it by going back, up, and forward. Back, up, forward. Let's do 2 more of these. bring it down, and then we'll regain your balance on both legs, bring your weight back into your heels, and transfer your weight to your right foot. Again, grab a chair or a wall if you'd like. Bring your left knee up, bring it out to the side, trying to still keep those hip points forward so we're not rotating. But we do rotate the leg back and then back behind you and forward. My plants are in the way. My lemon tree doesn't have any lemons on it because it doesn't want to be in Wisconsin. So hip cars is the last one, and then we're going to reverse it going back. Doing the same movement in the opposite direction. Let's do 2 more. Good. So walk that out. Let's come up to the top of the mat. Lift your arms over your head, stretching up towards the ceiling, and then folding down with bended knees, stepping back into downward dog. Inhale to fill the rib cage and exhale fully as you move into plank. Plank can be fully up or place your knees down. Both are great. Press your hands into the mat to stabilize those shoulders. And then lift the tailbone if you're able. Press back into downward dog. And then forward into plank. Back into downward dog. And forward into plank. This time, step your right foot forward. And we'll raise up into a lunge. Press the right foot firmly into the mat. Trying to move the femur bone so that you create some space in the hip joint. Inhale and exhale, getting comfortable here in the lunge. And then place your hands down, stepping back into downward dog. Forward into plank. Bring your left foot forward. And come all the way up again, pressing the left foot into the mat. Keeping a slight bend in the back leg. And trying to slide that femur bone away from your hip. Bring your hands down. Step back into downward dog. Bring the right foot forward again, back up into the lunge, pressing your right foot into the mat, and bringing a slight bend in the back leg. From here, we're going to bring our awareness back into the right foot and see if you can come up onto your toes. Bring your heel back down. Now, as we do this lunge, you want to be with your torso mostly straight up, so we're not in this kind of a lunge. That bend in the back knee will help you stay straight. Really press your right foot into the mat and then bring the heel up off the ground. Let's do 5 of those heel lifts together. 1, 4, and 5. And then, again, firmly rooting that right foot into the mat, you're going to bring your weight into it to turn your left foot so that the toes are on the ground the other way, and bring a slight bend to give a top of the foot stretch. Inhale and exhale. And then bring your hands to the ground, stepping back into downward dog. Inhale and exhale. Bring your left foot up. Come into the lunge again, fully up, and then we'll do that on this side. So pressing your left foot into the mat, you're going to lift your heel, come onto your toes, see how that feels. Get your stability, keeping a bend in the back leg, and then down. Lifting the heel up and down. And again, we'll try to do 5 more together. 5. And then bringing your weight into your left foot, you're going to flip your back foot over so that the top of your toes are on the mat, and you give a nice top of the foot stretch. Inhale and exhale. Hold for another breath. And then bring both hands down, stepping back into downward dog. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale to plank. Take 3 breaths here. You can have your knees down or up, whatever works for you today. And then bring the right foot forward again. Press into the mat with your foot to come all the way up into that standing lunge. And then this time you're going to place your hands on your rib cage. And as you inhale, try to fill the rib cage 360 degrees so that you can feel your breath all the way around your spine and your sternum and at the top of the bottom of your ribs. And then exhale all the way out so that your ribs squeeze together as you exhale. Try that a couple more times, getting a feel for that type of breath. Inhale. And exhale to squeeze. Inhale. And exhale to squeeze. Now you're going to rotate your rib cage to the right, kind of like you're screwing the lid of the jar. So the hip points are facing forward, and it's just a small movement where your rib cage is turning. Inhale, that 360-degree breath here, and exhale all the way out. And then turn to the left, screw the lid of the jar, and breathe with that 360-degree breath to the left. Again, to the right. And then to the left. And then come back to center. Bring both hands to the mat, pressing back into downward dog. Forward into plank and bring the left foot forward. Into the lunge to come all the way up again, pressing that left foot into the mat to bring stability and keep an active leg. And then again, we'll do the rib rotation. You can have your hands on your ribs if it helps. You could also go in prayer, trying to keep your prayer hands at the sternum as you turn. So you're not forcing it, you're not trying to go as far as you possibly can. You want to bring rotation into that upper back surrounding the ribs. And then to the left. To the right. Using that 360-degree breath to really fill the rib cage helps bring a stretch from within too. Let's go right and then left one more time. And then this time you're going to bring your right leg up to the top of the mat with your left foot. Regaining your stability, bring your weight back into your heels and bend your knees for a squat. As you squat, you keep the weight back into your heels, really bringing the hips back, but try to keep your toes on the ground. Hands can be out in front of you or in prayer, to the side, whatever works for you. Choose your own adventure. Breathing fully with your inhale and your exhale. 2 more breaths here in the squat. And then pressing up, maybe shake those legs out a little. They're working hard. And then both feet on the mat, facing forward, about hip width apart. We'll go back down into the squat. And then let's do that rib rotation in the squat position. Notice how it may feel different, flowing to each side, as opposed to when you were in the lunge. The squat can be very small or deeper if you'd like. Try not to arch the back, but keep a neutral spine. Let's go to the right and the left one more time. And then extend your arms out in front of you, and we'll slowly squat to get down to the mat. See how far you can go before you have to just plunk your butt right back down. Keep your heels and your toes on the ground. See if you can make it all the way down to the mat. There we go. Okay, now you're going to go ahead and come back onto your knees, and we'll press back into downward dog again. Maybe walk it out. And then come forward into plank. And we'll do some side planks. So bringing your weight into the left hand and foot, turning your hips. You can do a side plank with feet one in front of the other, or feet can be on top of each other. Or you could bring your bottom knee down and do more of a plank like this. You can extend your arm overhead or straight above you like a T. Do what works in your body today. But try to really press that left hand into the mat and lift those hips up towards the ceiling. Try the 360-degree breath in this position. Let's take one more deep inhale and exhale here. And then coming back to plank. And we'll move to the other side. I'm going to turn so that I'm not facing my back to you. You're going to press your right hand into the mat. Come onto your right foot. And you can have that knee down. It's always a good way to start. If you feel like you have good stability there and you're able to really lift your hips up off the floor, you could extend that bottom leg and really press that left hip up toward the ceiling. Fill the rib cage with your breath and then blow it all the way out. Take 2 more breaths together here. And then come back down to plank. I'm going to turn again, but you probably don't have to. To plank, and then back to downward dog. Let's bring our knees down for that active child's pose, reaching your arms out, fingertips on the mat. Use that 360-degree breath to try and bring the breath to the back of your shoulder blades. And then exhale all the way out. Take about 3 more breaths here. Slowing the heart rate. And then you're going to bring your legs forward, but let's see if we can do that without using your hands. So one way to do that is to cross your ankles from behind and then sit back and bring your legs out in front of you. From here, we're going to lower our backs down to the mat. You can also try to do that without hands if you'd like. Going as slowly as possible will bring you more challenge. Roll the spine all the way down until you're resting on the floor. Feel free to get a small pillow for your head and to support your neck if you'd like. Let's take a deep breath together, getting used to being on the mat now with our whole body touching the floor. Settle your back into the mat. Let the shoulders rest down. And then bring the bottom of the feet to the ground so that your knees are bent. We'll do some hip bridges together. So you're going to press your feet into the floor. Press them deeply into the floor so that it brings your hips up off the floor. We're not going into a full back bend here. Just lifting the hips, pressing both feet into the mat, and making sure not to splay your knees out, but they should stay only about hips width apart. If you're tempted to use your hands, you could put those up on your legs as well. But your shoulders should stay on the ground, the backs of your shoulders, your shoulder blades. And then lower back down, gently to the floor. Take an inhale and exhale here. And then again, we'll press the feet into the mat to bring the hips back up. Take another breath. Bring it back down. And then spread your feet out a little bit further on the mat so that we can do some 90-90 to kind of stretch out the hips. So the way you do that is letting your knees fall to one side so that your legs are kind of bent in a 90-90 degree position. And then keeping your heels on the floor, turning to the other side. And just slowly moving back and forth. Getting a good stretch in the hip sockets. Breathing gently and naturally. Bringing your heart rate down and letting your body rest and prepare for Savasana. You can slow down that movement. And then when you're ready, bring your legs out to extend and resting completely into the floor. I recommend staying in Shavasana for at least 10 minutes if you're able. Really settling the practice into your body after all that great mobility. So just feel free to rest there. I have a quote for you and then I'll go as you rest on your own. Let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer, and let faith be the bridge you build to overcome evil and welcome good, by Maya Angelou.